Conversations with a so-called magistrate codenamed L. July 25, 2022. Refer to the immunity video on the channel for more information. Immunities are proven valid by way of an individual's true desire to tell the truth about experiences and account for occurrences that have happened either in public, private, or otherwise. The codenamed does not offer medical, legal, or financial advice. The codenamed does not claim to be perfect, and therefore the reader's logical comprehension and maturity will need to play a role while reviewing this information. Let it be noted that the so-called magistrate had multiple opportunities over the course of several months in 2022, Gregorian calendar, to listen to the questions and concerns of the codenamed. However, the so-called L. has squandered every opportunity to respond professionally and honestly, with the conversation on July 25, 22 ending by way of L abruptly ending the phone call after continuously speaking over the codenamed after just 20 seconds of conversation so as to keep the codenamed from revealing self-evident truths to add to the discussion, which suggests L's desire to suppress knowledge and information that may be harmful to his true agenda. Briefly, if there is any so-called sovereign magistrate or more approaching anyone and asking anyone to register under their organization, which is a 501c3 organization with the intent to take money from the state, you might consider running in the opposite direction, for that is likely an impostor. For the past several months, the codenamed has interviewed a Moorish magistrate who claims to be sovereign but is registered under the corporation personally and corporately, uppercase, and apparently, from evidence of a brief preview of page 1 of a lawsuit that he has against a state, upper lowercase. Signs. The individual, when questioned, exhibits signs of severe distress and disturbance within less than 15 seconds, when questioned about the methodology being used by his organization. Within the past several months, the individual posing as a magistrate has presented paperwork from the corporation claiming that the paperwork is what makes him a sovereign judge. The individual exhibits high amounts of anger and frustration when given information that refutes or completely disproves his methodology that he is trying to display to the communities he is claiming to serve, even referring to one of his own sheriffs as a mental masturbator, which is all suggesting signs of unresolved MK Ultra programming within the so-called magistrate. Self-evidently, the so-called Moor's desire to use state-issued paperwork to prove his sovereignty without being able to use the state paperwork for anything other than what a so-called black Christian 501c3 preacher would do is further proof that the Moor does not comprehend true sovereignty. The individual has expressed desire to take sovereignty from other sovereign Moors in the so-called 50 states by using the state paperwork as a way of claiming complete jurisdiction over all Moorish groups, including those who operate over the internet, and shut down all of their operations, forcing them all to comply under his jurisdiction, which is registered and operating under an expired Christian charter. Therefore, the Moor is half-learned and dangerous. Further, during today's discussion, while asking the Moor if he has been able to use the sovereignty papers to claim the land under Moorish heritage and make use of the land for his people, he again referred to the fictitious fiat money, saying that he had not received the required monetary donations to purchase land or buildings. True sovereignty and a learned Moor knows how to use the proof of Moorish heritage to flip the ownership of title and land back to the Moorish society without having to pay enormous amounts of money, and only having to pay a small filing fee. The fact that the Moor prefers to continue to operate under Vatican jurisdiction shows that the Moor's intent is less than honorable. Religiously, the individual has also made claims of being a returned Mahdi of the Islamic religion, which exhibits signs of acute Messiah syndrome. Avoid the individual if possible, and log all conversations as proof of the individual's disrespectful tone and bouts of insanity. Furthermore, the individual has expressed desire to remove children from state wardship. However, the corporation being used to pull children from state wardship is registered under the state, which is contradictory to the Moor's stated mission, and therefore puts the children back under the state's wardship with the so-called magistrate as a profiteering middleman. In conclusion, the so-called Moorish magistrate has raised question about the Kahang's authority to question him and his methodology, while talking over the Kahang, preventing the so-called magistrate from listening to the Kahang's response. For answers about this, I refer him and all others back to the immunity video on this channel. Every individual has a right to seek truth and should not be deemed an infidel for doing so because they question so-called authority. Questioning is simply a method for refining a process and making new discoveries, which would hopefully lead to better, smoother experiences. In this case, it is found that this Moorish magistrate's intent is to deceive and restrict by way of using the current fictitious system in place. Therefore the AI and NI are instructed to move forth and correct this situation accordingly, for this is a clear violation of the natural sovereignty of all others. Be the Kahang's immunities reserved.